Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on whether or not we are making a mistake with Topps MLS autographs and just numbered cards of Messi with Inter Miami. So this is sort of the big topic of the moment, given Messi's moved to Inter Miami and being there now for half of last season, starting up the next season, and finally getting some MLS releases. They're sort of making their way to a market, and then sort of causing a stir. A lot of opinions both ways. My opinions are pretty slanted in one direction, but I will try to explain why that is. As always, if you enjoy the videos, do make sure to leave a like. Any thoughts, feel free to share them. I am more than open to listening and, debating if you want. Free discussion is good, so, you're more than welcome. With that said, let's get on into it. So, as we mentioned, Messi MLS cards are now sort of hitting the Twitter sphere, Instagram sphere, whatever online circles you may run in for cards. This has actually sort of transcended soccer cards in particular. There are Americans that just buy this sort of product because it's really cheap and you might be able to hit a Messi, so it's just kind of a cool thing. And I do agree it is a cool thing. Trust me, don't think that I am some massive hater that hates cards, hates fun, hates excitement. That is not the case. I merely am someone that just sort of wants to, maybe warn people or just, throw some caution out there for those that may be getting a little ahead of their skis. This isn't financial advice. I'm a dumb American that knows nothing about soccer. Thank you, James, for that one. And yeah, so let's get into it. Basically, the notable ones that we see up on screen, one here on the left-hand side is a mystery auto. This is a auto that was released in Topps MLS Chrome and was a mystery in terms of who's going to autograph this card. It turns out they acknowledge it's going to be Messi. These cards shot up from $500 to $600 to, a couple thousand, depending on what number and how that's all going to work. The middle card is a Topps Finest release. This has been getting ripped the last couple days. This is an out of 99. This actually just sold on eBay for $2,300, I do believe. It's around about that, so just trust me on that. And then the Topps Finest 1 of 1 was pulled on a live stream, and that sort of made a lot of waves. There are other 1 of 1s, there are other autos. I mean, there's a lot going on, but this is sort of the big first one to get pulled, and quite a notable one at that. So these are the cards in question. There certainly will be more. Keep in mind, this is just the start of Messi Inter Miami cards, right? So it's going to be exciting, but with that might come a little bit of over-eagerness. So to find a comparable time in soccer, I thought that there was really one good example of a player signing an auto in a format that is just sort of groundbreaking and people were, overly excited about. That one was the Mbappe first auto. This came out in the 2021-2022 Topps Chrome PSG Team Set Hobby Box. Essentially, this is a team set release where you were going to more than likely get autos of Mbappe, Messi, Neymar, mostly the whole PSG team. There are parallels scattered throughout, and this was a huge deal at the time because Mbappe, as we know, is a 2016-2017 rookie, and, he didn't have any autos until this came out, and these were going to be on card, which is all the more important, right? Also, if you're a set collector sort of person, I mean, PSG had Messi and Neymar at the time, so that makes it even more important in that regard, given that there are other people within the set worth chasing, and it's not just a bunch of random players. So when this came out, this really sort of made waves. Here's a ton of just different sort of articles or YouTube videos that were, at the time, very, very exciting. Tons of people were talking about it. The box itself started out a little bit under $10,000, I do believe. It sort of worked its way up to maybe $15,000 before the subsequent sort of fall. The boxes currently are sort of hard to work out where they'd be price-wise because there weren't many of them, and there's really no comps, at least from what I can find. I'm sure if I dug back, it's possible, but the thing is with boxes, it's not really representative of the cards inside and sort of the ride that they go on, because the box is sealed, and having a sealed box is typically much more impressive than a non-sealed box. Nonetheless, not really the point. We'll talk about the cards in particular and the Mbappe auto itself. So we'll talk about the gold out of 10 sales right here. This is the out of 10 gold Kylian Mbappe on-card auto from that set. As you can see, the pens used in this were a little bit streaky, so the autos don't look amazing. It is a factor, but people knew this upon release. It was pretty consistent that they didn't look great. If we look at the card ladder sales here, though, I've sorted by earliest sold to latest sold. So as you can see, the first out of 10 sold in 2022 September for 30,000 allegedly. Hard to really know sometimes if that actually sold or if it didn't. I'm just going to assume it did. A lot of the other sales around the time were very expensive as well for non-golds. Then we go to 2023, the next year, where a PSA 8 goes for $5,500. You might say it's PSA 8, it's going to go for a little bit less, and I would agree, but 30,000 to 5,000 is a pretty significant dip. The next one to go was an 8.5 just a couple weeks ago, or a month ago at this point, and that went for $3,800, which, you know, a half grade higher and goes for 30% less. It's a pretty decent discount. And then the following week, another gold went, and basically for the same price as the prior, despite being a half grade higher, and a pretty important half grade if you ask me. Most people don't consider an 8.5 to be close to a 9. It's probably closer to an 8. So basically every single sale you're finding here sold cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And this is an out of 10, first ever, on-card, Kylian Mbappe auto. It was at the time a major deal. And a lot of people might say, oh, well, Mbappe's no Messi. And sure, I mean, not yet. If we want to talk World Cup success, I mean, he's better than Messi, but, or at least as good, right? He's made it and lost in a final. He's also made it and won in a final. And he's also probably going to be the all-time top goal scorer in World Cup. So sure, there needs to be more proven, but he is a pretty proven player, especially when it comes to soccer. So to see, you know, a fall off like this is pretty staggering. And ultimately, that takes me to the simple answer that all of this is supply and demand. Think about that Mbappe release, right? When that Mbappe release, there were no autographs out there. There was a ton of demand for it. People wanted it. And over time, as 2021 went on, as 2022 went on, well, you see Mbappe autos in National Treasures, in Eminence, in this set, in that set, in the other set. He's got a ton of new prisms. I mean, there's just so much supply that eventually supply overtakes demand and the price falls. And that's something that's intuitively very easy to understand, but in the moment it isn't, right? When that Mbappe set came out, people weren't thinking, oh yeah, in 2 years there's going to be thousands of Mbappe autos, tons of them are going to be on card, and you know, who's going to care about a PSG set release where eventually, you know, everyone's only going to care about Real Madrid cards for Mbappe, or at least that's the theory floated out there. So supply and demand is something that you have to take into account at a very serious level, right? So let's talk about the demand side of it. We know that the supply for Messi MLS stuff is very low right now. In theory, he'll be here for a few years. And in my mind, he's going to be here at least until 2026, which means you'll have a few years of releases, more than likely. We'll go to some past greats that made their way to U.S. soccer and see what prices of theirs do and how much demand there is. So first off, the one that came to mind was David Beckham. There will be others, of course. David Beckham being the owner of Inter Miami and being connected to Messi in this way. His first year in MLS was 2007, and the most expensive cards sold the last 3 months on eBay were $51, $50, and $35. As you can tell, not too much of a staggering demand. Of course, it is David Beckham. David Beckham is no Messi. Sure, I get that. But it goes to show that, you know, people aren't hunting that. Whether it be David Beckham collectors, they don't seem to be crazily fond of it, or whether it be MLS collectors, they don't seem to be, you know, going out there throwing money hand over fist to get it. The same thing can be said for Zlatan, who in my opinion is a more collectible player, given that he's, you know, a little bit more modern, he's a striker, he's sort of got that personality, there's just a lot going on. Him at LA Galaxy, his early LA Galaxy stuff is, you know, less than David Beckham. $14, $35, $32, and these are numbered items of the time, right? The Top Stadium Club actually even has a rookie card logo on it, which is just funny to think about, but, you know, even that, and it being out of 50, still sold for $15. I mean, essentially a modern day base card rookie sort of price. I mean, it's nothing. And then we go to an actual GOAT, right? Pele. From what I can tell, I don't think he really has cards with the Cosmos. There's like custom cards floating around and all that stuff. So I understand that these are not cards. And so thus, you know, you have to take away something for that. But if you are a soccer collector, like a Sports Illustrated is still really cool in my opinion. I have some Sports Illustrated Maradona of him winning the World Cup. I think they're really cool. If you're a collector, not a card investor flipper guy, but if you are just a collector of the sport, right? These are pretty cool. And this is 1975 where Pele comes to the Cosmos, and the only things you're seeing are a $300 sale and a $150 sale. Both of those on best offer. Typically on best offer, you're going to get higher prices because the seller's in charge of what it sells for rather than buyers. And yeah, here, I mean, you have $300 and $150. Again, not really much going on there. Sure, again, Sports Illustrated, it's not a card, I get it. But this is the GOAT of GOATs coming to the United States after he was basically in Brazil all of his career, and you're not going to see him other than every 4 years at a World Cup. So this was a huge deal, in my opinion. From what I understand, I think it was a bigger deal then than Messi to the U.S. is now. Some people might debate that. But I feel like the world was so much smaller back in the day, where if something this monumental happened, it would be pretty groundbreaking, right? Now, I mean, if you really cared about soccer, people in America could watch Messi for the last 10, 20 years. It's accessible. You can see it. This was sort of, a whole new era, a whole different landscape, and again, no one really seems to care. Fast forward to Messi, his first MLS cards. We're only a month into them, really, and as you can see, there's allegedly a $25,000 sale for this one of one. Whether or not that got paid, who knows? But I guess the thing is, it's not out of the realm of possibility when you see out of fives going for $3,000, right? People pay crazy premiums for one of ones. Who knows? But then you also have a $5,000 mystery auto down here, and you have plenty of other multiple thousands of dollars spent on many, many other cards down here. This is particularly shocking to me because when it comes to Messi, there was sort of this narrative that if you were around the last few years, you saw it happen, where people were saying the only investable Messi, which is part of the problem. A lot of people look at this through an investing aspect rather than a collecting aspect. But a lot of people were saying the only Messis worth ever going after are Barcelona Messis, right? Because that's the only club he's ever sort of had any relevant accomplishments with. It's Barcelona or nothing. Who cares about anything else, right? Well, then he wins the World Cup, and now everyone and their mother is saying, well, Argentina stuff's great now too. I mean, it's got the Messi World Cup narrative attached. The time where he became the best player to ever grace a soccer pitch, based off of a penalty shootout, and now people want to collect Lionel Messi Argentina kits. So now we got two kits in the mix. PSG kits, however, have basically been left in the dust. I mean, people are essentially saying none of that matters. He didn't accomplish anything there. Who cares? PSG was a waste of time. I wouldn't even want a PSG card in my collection. I mean, that's sort of the approach that some people have taken. And while I understand it to an extent, I do think it sort of, doesn't account for the history of Messi. I mean, that's the first team he moved to after Barca. I think it's moderately important. I don't think it, I wouldn't want to be the person going and just solely collecting PSG Messi, but I do think it's an important step in the process. All that leads me to say, what does an Inter Miami Messi kit mean? Like, what's the importance, right? To me, it's solidly behind Barca. It's solidly behind Argentina. And in my opinion, sure, it's probably better than PSG, but how much better than PSG? I don't know. That's sort of an interesting topic, but from the way I'd see it, this is the third best kit you could get him in. And how important is that? I don't know. To some it may be really important, to some it may not be. That's up for debate. I guess my issue with it is, what's the Miami potential for Messi? What could possibly happen with him at Inter Miami that's going to be so groundbreaking, right? One of two things, from what I could tell could happen. He could win the Landon Donovan MVP award, which would put him in the same company as Chris Wondolowski, Mike McGee, Robbie Keane, Sebastian Giovinco, David Villa, Diego Valeri, Joseph Martinez, Carlos Vela. You get the idea. I mean, I don't really want to keep going, but basically, I mean, I think the list sort of speaks for itself. If you put Messi's name on there, it almost looks like it doesn't belong, which is sort of the point. This is, at least in my opinion, the MLS has been a retirement league for a while and hasn't taken great steps to sort of rid that label. In best case scenario, what? He wins an MLS championship. Right now, the current odds of Miami winning, I believe, are plus 300 or plus 400, which equates to 20 to 25% chance. And that's, with people wanting to bet it, right? That's what the books are allowing you to get. In reality, it's probably lower, say maybe 15 or 20% chance, maybe lower than that. It's not a great chance, even if he's here for a few years, maybe it's a 50-50 chance he wins one. I mean, that's not impressive. It very easily could go wrong where he never really accomplishes what people think he could accomplish here. And even if he does, what is he really accomplishing? If he won an MLS championship, what are people going to write that up on his legacy? It'd be like, oh, this is what makes Messi great. No, essentially no one's going to care in due time. Now, in that moment, of course, people are going to care. It's going to be huge. And so I'll try to round it out here. I don't want to go all day on the topic, but first one, what's the target collector base? Who's collecting this? And from what I can tell, it's a lot of Messi guys, whether it be Messi collectors or Messi investors. I think it's a pretty decent mix of both. I don't really think it's MLS collectors, because MLS collectors are probably people that are used to paying pretty low dollar for a lot of stuff, and now these Messi cards are selling for really high dollar in good parallels. So, are they really going to want to shell out 10, 20, 50 times what they usually pay just to get a Messi? I don't know. Maybe. Does the MLS bump even exist is another thought. I hear a lot of people that happen to be outside of America telling me how much of a big deal it is for Messi to go to America. You don't understand, guys. Messi to America is going to be huge. It's going to make the world or the country fall in love with the sport again. He's going to take it to a new level. Everyone's going to be focused in on it. Well, I can tell you, that's not the case. It's not the case at all. I live in Midwest USA, sort of, we're a little bit behind the times. We're not as uppity as different places, but none of my friends have ever talked about Messi yet. None of them. Haven't mentioned it, haven't said anything about it. I asked my brother the other day, just on this subject, because I was interested. I asked him, do you even know where Messi plays right now? And he said, Abu Dhabi. So, I mean, obviously he's not the most in touch with soccer, I get that. But basically he confused Messi with Ronaldo and being in Saudi Arabia. He had no clue, essentially. And he lives here in the US. He's not the biggest social media user, so I'm sure that plays a part. But that sort of shows you that this is not as pervasive as people make it seem to be. Sure, people pay expensive prices to go to a Messi game, but that's a very niche audience of people that really want to see him and have the money to do so. It's not really as groundbreaking as people thought it would be, or people still talk about it being. I don't think it's as revolutionary as we want to believe, and I think the MLS also plays a part in trying to pump it to be more than it actually is. And then the final two go hand in hand pretty well. So the second to last is historical meaning, and the final is fast forward 20 years. So historical meaning, what does it mean, right? In this moment, a lot of people are going to tell you, well, it's Messi coming to America. It's MLS bursting onto the scene. It's, this, that, and the other. This is why it's big. But fast forward 20 years, right? It's hard to do, but try to do it. What are people going to think of Messi Inter Miami cards? They're probably just going to think of, oh, that's when he was washed and went to the retirement league. Maybe he won a championship there. Even if he did, I don't think there's going to be that fond of memories like, oh, remember when DeAndre Yedlin crossed in a ball for Messi and Messi tucked it away into the upper right. I mean, I don't think there's going to be that sort of nostalgia for it. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of hype in this moment for a card that really has pretty little historical meaning, if I'm being honest. That's my thoughts on Messi Inter Miami cards. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. And even if you didn't, I'd appreciate a like. If you want to dislike, that's fine too. Comments appreciated down below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Share it with me, share it with others. Always a fun time. If you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.